Guys, I wanted to make a recording of a coding session for my CLI Gem. So I'm going to show you what I've got going on and kind of explain what I have so far, and then start coding out the feature that I want to code out. So what I'm building, let me get there first. Okay, so this is what I have so far. So this is a sports headlines aggregator. And there are 4 different sites that I'm going to be scraping the top headlines from. So the user is going to select a site by the number you would like to view the top headlines from. So they type in 1 for ESPN. Then what will happen is the top headlines from ESPN will populate, and from there the user will be able to select a particular headline and read the actual content from that article. But what I want to build right now is the user typing in a number and those top headlines populating in the form of a list. So let's actually, I didn't open the actual, let's open the actual project here. So what I have right now is the interface that gets called once the gem is opened. So it puts welcome to the sports headlines aggregator, and what I have it doing right off the bat is creating the site objects uh, right before anything happens. So here is the site object where each instance of site has a name, a URL, and articles. I created a constant sites. So when the CLI calls create sites from hash, what it's doing is it's using this method and taking each uh, item in the hash and creating uh, a new instance of site. So you'll have 4 site instances, each with a site name of these 4 respectively, and then the site URLs of these respectively. And then also upon initialization or upon instantiation, uh, there's an articles property which is set to an empty array. And part of what I'm going to build is once those headlines are scraped, then a new article instance is created and added to that particular instance uh, article property. So first, let's go back to the CLI. So here is where the user is prompted to select the site by number, and then it lists the sites, and that's where you see this happening right here. Now what I want to do is I just want to do a quick check. Um, let's see, if input dot, so I want to just make sure that the user enters either 1 through 4, just to make it easy. That way we know that they entered the correct. If not, it'll just go back to the loop. And what I kind of want to do is call a method in the scraper module and pass in that instance of site. So, I have a variable sites here that stores all instances of site, so all 4 sites that I've created. So, what I want to look to do is call a method scraper dot scrape site headlines, and I want to pass in the particular site the user chooses. So I'm going to use the sites variable I created up here, and then just pass in the input dot to I minus 1 because it's an array, and that's how it's going to call this scrape site headlines method and pass in whatever instance. So if the user enters 1, it's going to do sites in index 1 minus 1, which is 0. So it's going to be sites 0, which is the ESPN object that it's going to pass to this scrape site headlines method. So let's build out that scrape site headlines method. Okay, def self scrape site headlines, and it's going to take in an argument of whatever site object is passed in. And here's where I will use Nokogiri to parse the particular HTML and grab all the different headlines. So what we need to do is just set a variable, set a variable of doc, and we'll make that equal to Nokogiri HTML and use the OpenURI's open method, and we'll just pass in the site's URL, which in this case is going to be site.siteURL. That way we can use Nokogiri to parse and look for the particular items that we want. So one thing I want to make sure is that this method is working correctly. So what we can do is, and I want to use if-else statements just because I know that there are only 4 site objects, so it's not that hard to check to see what site the user entered. So we can do site.name, it's actually site name, is equal to ESPN. We can just do puts just to check, make sure we're right. ESPN was selected. Else if, site.site name equals, I believe it's sports illustrated. Else if site name equals Bleacher Report, and then else. Okay, and then we'll do our end, and we'll just put SI Bleacher Report. And then this one is Pro Football Talk. So let's just check and make sure that our CLI is working. Yeah, ESPN was selected. There we go. We'll do 2. SI was selected. 3. Bleacher Report, and then 4. Pro Football Talk was selected. Cool. And we'll just exit. Perfect. All right, so now comes the fun part. We're going to be scraping. So let's first go to ESPN. And here's where I kind of like to put a binding, a pry. That way I can start to use Nokogiri to parse the HTML. So let's do this. So we'll get it started. I'm going to choose ESPN. We should hit the pry. Now what I can do, if I type in doc, we can see the different nested nodes here. So what I want to look for is a way to grab all of these headlines. So we're going to inspect developer tools. So we can see here there's a class headlines, and then there's LIs. So we might even be able to just use the class headlines selector. So what I like to do is I like to just start playing around a little bit to look for, to try to find what I'm looking for. And LIs, so it's class headlines and then LI. Let's see what that gives me. So that gives me a bunch of stuff. And it looks like it's giving me what I need. Let's do this. Let's do size to see how many items I collected. 7, and let's see if that matches correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good. So we can use this to grab all the different headlines. Now that it's giving me all the different headlines, what I want to do is iterate over each one. And I'm just going to call it headline. Oops. I can get rid of this puts. And then I go back into my binding.pry. What I'm going to do is exit out and start it over again. All right, so now if we type in headline, so it gives me the first headline, and here's the text that I need. So let's see where that is in. So it looks like it's part of the text of the A tag. So let's try headline.search. A. See what that gives me. Cool. So it gives me that particular A tag. Now we want the text from this particular item. So let's try just .text. There we go. Yeah. New QB Osweiler, something special in the Texans. Perfect. So what we want to do now is, because we're grabbing an individual article, I want to create a new instance of that article. And I believe it's article, and it's sport headlines. Cool. And then what we can do is we can set the new article dot title equal to this right here. And we also want to save the article URL. It's article URL. Is equal. Now let's play around with this. I believe we can do attribute of href and the value of that. Cool. All right. And for some reason, it just gives us that. Let's see if that works. No. So we need to actually concatenate that to the end of the site URL. So what we'll do is take that and add that to this bad boy. Now, it's a little long, but hey, at least it works. And then what we should do, so we created the instance of a new article, added the title, added the URL. The site uh, object has an add article method. So what we can do is, because we're in this particular instance of ESPN, because we checked that to make sure that it was equal to ESPN, we can do site.add article and pass in new article. So we know that once the article is created and the properties are added to that new instance, it's saved into the site instance. So this article belongs to this site. So let's move our binding.pry to make sure that does actually work. So one. All right. So if we do site, which is ESPN, there we can see that first article was saved into the articles property of this particular instance of Sport Headline site. So for ESPN, this article was saved. So and if we exit through to the next one, we'll be able to see, first off, let's check the headline. Yeah, Chiefs docked 2 picks find, which matches that right there. And if we check what our site looks like, yeah, now it's got 2 articles there. So good. So it's saving each article instance into that site instance. So cool. Looks like it's working. So it looks like we've got the ESPN portion working. Now what we can do is work on the Sports Illustrated part. So I'm going to copy this because most of the code is going to be the same. We just are going to change some of these items here. So let's go to Sports Illustrated and check to see what we're working with for selectors. Okay, so it looks like, move this up a little bit. So each article is an LI, and it's in the links class, title body. Let me see if there's something we can grab that might be a little more specific. Top stories tile. That seems pretty specific. Let's try that. So let's remove the binding.pry here, and let's move it up here. Whoops. Binding.pry, save, and now what we want to do is hit number 2 to hit the pry because it's Sports Illustrated. Now let's do doc.search top stories tile. It's actually a class, so to add the dot there, and we can try top stories tile, maybe tile body to make it a little more specific, and then LI. Hopefully that'll grab all those. It looks like we've got what we need. Let's see what the size of this item is. 16, which looks like, oh yeah, 16, they even number these. So yeah, we can tell there are 16 of these headlines. So cool. So we'll use that as our selector here. Sports Illustrated, great. Perfect. And what I like to do now is move my pry inside. Then we can start selecting the items. Okay, so now that we're in here, we need certain elements of the article. So one thing is the headline. So here's the particular headline. Looks like we can just go into the A tag of the LI because there are no other A tags inside the LI. So what we can do, and let's give it a shot here, headline dot search, oops, A, cool. And let's do text. That should give us the headline. Perfect. Cool. So let's set that equal to new article.title. Oh, already matches. It's similar to the ESPN. Great. Now all we need is the link, which should be pretty close. So we'll do that attribute href dot value. That gives us what we need. Perfect. It gives us the full URL. So we don't need to add site URL and concatenate. We'll replace that. And then site add new article. Good, good, perfect. Cool. Now let's see if that worked. Okay, so right now the site is Sports Illustrated, and there are no articles. I wonder why there are no new articles. It should, oh, because it hit the first binding.pry. I was wondering why there weren't any articles yet. So site. Okay, there we go. So there's the first article, SI.com's 100 greatest moments in sports history. SI's 100 greatest moments in sports history. Great. And let's get to the next one. Perfect. So cool. Saving all of our articles for Sports Illustrated. Now on to the next one. So let's remove this pry here. Perfect. All right, it's coming along. Okay, so we're on Bleacher Report now. Bleacher Report. Let's see what we need to pull out to get our headlines. Okay, now this looks lovely. So, looks like the title here. Let's go up a little bit more. So that class, article content, article title. There's got to be something we can work with here. Headline articles. Seems pretty specific enough. So let's try that. Let's try headline articles. So that's class. Headline articles. Bleacher Report. Hit our pry. Now doc.search. And that's a class headline. Headline. Actually, I copied it. Let's copy it. Headline articles and again LI, right? Each article is its own LI. Yes, okay. Yep, perfect. So let's see what that looks like. Looks like it's what I need. The best way is to check the size of this. 5. And I believe, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. All right, so what we can do is change that up here. Move my pry in. Okay, now we can start. Perfect. Okay. So headline. Okay. What we want is inside this LI, our title. There we go. Span.title. Span.title. Perfect. Let's try that. So headline dot search span.title, and we'll do text, I believe is what we need. Perfect. Report Texan signs Osweiler to $72 million deal. I don't know why the Broncos let him get away, but that's for another day. Okay. All right, so we've got the title saved. Now we just need the value of the particular link here. So if we go back in, so there's the A tag inside the LI. So we might even be able to just do make it a little more specific, title. So let's try that. Headline search title. See what that returns us. Attribute href yes value. Perfect. That gives us the full URL. Great. Okay. So, got one more to go. Almost in. So I'm not going to test it out. I'm pretty sure it works, but we'll find out soon enough because running close against or running up to the 30-minute time for this video. So want to get the last one in here so we can see if it all works. Okay, so next one is going to be the Pro Football Talk. And so let's inspect here and see what we've got going. Oops. Oh, it actually clicked on it. Hang on. Why it's acting up like this? Okay. So, oh, look at that. So you got an ID of top headlines. That's perfect. So what we can do here is let's just make sure it's right? So Pro Football Talk, our pry here, and we want to try its headlines, top headlines. So it's ID of top headlines. So it's doc.search ID of top headlines. Size 1, that's not right. Oh, it's because we want to do LI, yeah. We want to do the each LI inside top headlines. Dot size, perfect, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, perfect. So let's go ahead and save that. Get in there. Okay. Now we are almost done. Okay, so headline. This should be easy because there's not much in here, so we can pretty much just do headline.text, I'm assuming. So, .text. Yeah, perfect. So headline.text. And then for the URL, I might need to do a search because the A is nested inside the LI. Yeah. Attribute value. Perfect. Cool. Okay. I think we've got it pretty much dialed in. So let's test it out here. So we've got self-scrape from headlines. Cool, cool. Got the CLI. Perfect. Cool. See, but the scraper, all it does is it scrapes those headlines and adds each article to that particular site object. It's still not going to display them to the user. So let me just make sure my pry is no longer, there we go. Yeah, so it scraped it, but it still didn't show it. So we need to add that to the actual site here. So, or the CLI. So what we want to do is with each site, or for under the site class, I created a list articles. And what this method does is it iterates through each article for this particular instance. So I'm doing each with index, article index, and I'm just putsing the number of the article plus the article's title, because each article has a title, which we made sure we saved, in the scraper. So what we want to do is, depending on the number that the user enters, we want to call that list articles method. So sites, and we're going to use the input dot to I minus 1, because we need to make sure we use the proper index of that site because it's an array. And we're just going to call the list articles method on that. So that should work. Let's give it a shot. So we're going to do ESPN. There we go. Hey, look at that. So it's got all 7 headlines for ESPN. So now let's try Sports Illustrated. There we go. All 16 headlines. Bleacher Report should only be 5, I believe. Yep, 5. And then Pro Football Talk had a few, so let's see, 9. Perfect. So yeah, so that's the scraping of the site headlines. Now what I want to do now is my next step is to let the user enter in a particular number for an article they want to read, and then it's going to show the actual content of that article. So if somebody clicks on that particular article, it'll take them, and then what I'm going to show in my interface is the actual text of that article. So that's all I wanted to show you guys building for this particular video. I might record a second video just to put on my blog on how I build that article scraper method. So that's it. Thanks, guys.